Mhm.
I'll be back.
Okay, well, ona ga diwahi ka jokos wana usios nyari. We're not gonna be doing a regular opening that you like what you're used to seeing us doing on a Wednesday night because right now we're in the law recital, so this is an extension of it. It's a part of it because tonight we are talking about the creation story. But we're having a bit of a problem trying to establish the for the translation. We know we identified at in the daytime that we were going to be doing this, and there was going to be translation for Spanish and French. So, but right now they're trying to figure it out. So we're in the middle of waiting to know what's happening there. So we're just waiting. We're not going to get started until we know that everybody's ready for the translation. So that's what's happening right now. We're waiting. In the meantime, while we're waiting, we might as well talk about what is happening with the waters. Everybody knows that there's stuff happening with the water all around the world. This is in many areas, it's catastrophic. In many countries, there are millions of people that are in the process of being affected, or they're already affected, or it's going to happen to them in the very near future. And so we know that worldwide, in every country, in every province, state, whatever, there is some kind of water issue that we are being confronted with. And so what we're looking at then is not just catastrophic floods in Pakistan, not just catastrophic flood in Jackson, Mississippi. And really the effects of what's happening in Jackson, Mississippi is the equivalent of what happened in New Orleans when Hurricane Katrina hit, is that it was something that everybody knew what would happen eventually at some point. And so it was back then with Hurricane Katrina, there was a lot of damage that was sustained that could have been avoided, a lot of hardships that could have been avoided. And so again, it's like this in Jackson, Mississippi. When we consider that the water levels itself have, excuse me, the amounts of water, this is not like, say, the worst that they've had, the worst flooding or whatever, worst rains. They've had worse, but yet the effects haven't been so bad. This time, it's very bad. Well, this is because of things are happening differently with the water, but also that because of when you don't like take precautions, on your infrastructure, and you don't upkeep your infrastructure, then eventually after a couple of floods, then the system won't be able to take the pressures anymore. And so really this is what's happening, why there is such catastrophic damage happening in Mississippi. It's not so much just because, well, there's rain and there's a flood to say, well, it's a natural disaster. This is a combination of a natural disaster and basically it is corruption. It is political corruption. It's bureaucratic corruption, where on the level of bureaucratic corruption, where that anybody who works for the bureaucracy of the city, of City Hall, they are all taking advantage. All, no matter what any public worker wants to say about themselves. Oh, they do this in their job, whatever. That's fine. It doesn't matter. As long as you're in a system that actually promotes that, and if you have a certain level of scruples, well, then you will not be the one who is taking advantage of those things. But that just because it's not you doesn't mean that the system doesn't nurture that. The system nurtures that. That's a fact. You know that. It nurtures the people to take advantage of the collective. So whenever anybody's gets, say, for instance, you get a government job, you're some kind of contractor. That's what everybody wants, right? They want that government contract. Why? Because there's just free money flowing into your pockets. The same job that you would do, say, like for a private, it costs you 3 times as much.
You're cutting.
So this is what people do, is they take advantage. The bureaucracy of democracy is designed it is designed for corruption. It's the bureaucracy that actually creates corruption within democracy, because it's the bureaucracy that is there spending its time getting paid to figure out stuff to do to get paid for it. And so the stuff that it does to get paid for is it creates and establishes all kinds of rules and restrictions upon you, and it establishes actually parking meter cops come and establish to inflict those restrictions upon you. When in the first place, you in the city who pays your taxes in the city for everything there, you're already paying for the right to park anywhere in that city. That's your taxes. But then it's the bureaucracy, the corruption of democracy that has to legitimize its existence. And so the bureaucrats have to do something to legitimize them being there. Because the reality of anybody who should be doing any kind of say you're an official, public official, a representative. You're the one that's supposed to be doing the work. You're not supposed to be hiring a bureaucrat to be doing your work. That's why you are elected and appointed and put in that position. The elected person is supposed to be doing that work. But the fact of the corruption of democracy, again, it's the evil twins. It's democracies and bureaucracies. These two evil twins together wreak havoc upon the society, because the society buys into their lie of that this is your freedom. Look at the reality of what the bureaucracy of democracy does, is it creates all the restrictions upon you. It creates this law, that law. Why is that door open? It creates all kinds of laws upon you, all kinds of restrictions upon you. And this is you paying for these restrictions upon you. Now, when you created and participated in a so-called government, you didn't create a government to restrict you. You created a government only to manage your public affairs. They're not in the business of restricting you. Not supposed to be. If it is, as they say, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Well, if it was that, are the people going to establish a bureaucracy that's going to restrict us, that's going to establish police to violate us, to establish just that thing, parking meter cops, where we're already paying for through our taxes in any city, where we're already paying for those parking spots? And then if you're in a city like Montreal, then what you already paid for, and then a corrupt regime comes along and takes those parking spots away and puts a higher cost on those parking spots, that, and then even more vigorous policing of that with the parking meter police, then you're paying for yourself to beat yourself up. It's like you are a Christian. Oh, I'm so bad. Every tax you make, it's a new whip to whip you even more, until you're putting barbed wire in there and you're whipping yourself even more. Okay, I'm spending time right now to see if they are able to establish the translation. So where are we then, Artie?
Only Nigel needs to finish setting up.
Okay, so I'm still spending some time here. So anyways, worldwide water crisis worldwide water emergency, worldwide water catastrophe. So this is our circumstances that are confronting us all. If not if you, well, you live in the world, so you are confronted with this worldwide water emergency. Are you addressing this worldwide water emergency? Are you part of a say a state or a provincial dialogue on this, or a federal dialogue, or an international dialogue? Are you part of a dialogue about what's happening to the water? Never mind about if it's with the official level, with the government or anything, or an organization. Are you just talking about this yourself, by yourself, with your family? Are you thinking about this? Are you addressing it? This is something that every person on earth, right now, should be addressing. We should not be laying dormant while there is a worldwide emergency, water emergency confronting us. You think of if you're keeping up to speed on just Jackson, Mississippi. Okay, well there, you know, that their water system, their water filtration broke down. Their whole system broke down. Their sewage system broke down, unable to have any kind of water. And the water that they do have pouring out of the tap, it's brown. So not even a boil water advisory, forget about that, you know. You might as well say go out and boil dirt until it turns to water. This is the equivalent of really what they're dealing with, because the water now is so contaminated, so filthy, because the sewage system overflowed into everything that's flooded. So everything's flooded, water everywhere, sewage floats to the top and spreads out wherever the current is flowing. Where's the current flowing? Well, the water is usually in the rivers, but it's overflowed. So that means the current of that water is flowing to where your house is. It's flowing to where your garden is. It's flowing to where your kids play. First and foremost, it's flowing to where your own water filtration is, which is the reason why in Jackson that they have no drinking water. So this means that there is, just like in Britain right now, and think of this, who are the people in Jackson, Mississippi? There's a lot of Black people there, descendants of slaves, so they didn't get to Jackson, Mississippi the way that the white people got there. Who are the white people in Jackson, Mississippi? These are all Brits. These are all people from the 13 colonies who fought themselves, beat themselves up, saying we're this, we're not this, yes, we're not this, but they're that, they're really that. They fought themselves, killed themselves over being themselves. They didn't like who they were. So they killed a whole bunch of themselves off and imagined themselves to no longer be who they actually are. So in the South, they actually imagine that they're not Brits. They're all Brits. They're all British. So is it shocking that when you consider the worldwide water emergency, that when you look at where the Brits are, that they are, again, full of shit. They have done this to themselves there. They have covered their beaches in shit. They are 60% of their beaches covered in shit. And again, when they are in the middle of a heat wave, like the record-breaking heat wave that they're having this year, I believe they're still in it. And even if they aren't, doesn't really matter. Their beaches covered in shit. But when they were in the heat wave, and you're looking for some kind of relief from that heat, the only relief to heat is either you go in air conditioning, but the heat is actually putting huge strain on the infrastructure. So even electricity is suffering. So air conditioning is even now a problem. But the only other option from there is either you cover yourself in ice cream, or else you go in the water, go jump in water. And so when you're just cooking, you're boiling, you're not gonna be too concerned if the water that you're jumping in is covered in shit. Well, if you got no choice, that's what you're gonna do. So this is what's happening. We are not we, Britain, that has expanded its poison around the world. Everywhere its people go, They brought this shit. And so is it too shocking or too coincidental to believe that, well, wherever they go, they're going to turn it to shit and they're going to be exposed in shit right now. And so this is what's happening in the South Jackson, Mississippi. This is the weak spot right now. Remember, everybody, remember that story of the little boy who put his finger in the dike, and it's a Dutch story. Well, think of that. If you don't put your finger in the dike there in that little hole, that's just a little trickle coming out, then you know eventually it's going to bust open and the water just that's going to flood everywhere. So, you know, the weak spot, what's coming in, what's happening at that weak spot? Flooding and flooding, shit everywhere. That's your weak spot. This is what's coming your way. So keep your eye out for that. Okay, so we're ready then? All right, so I guess then I gotta imagine that they're translating. So this is gonna be a little bit of
It's like doing the.
psychological getting used to here, because usually I can either hear the translation or I know I'm pausing. So anyways, bear with me then. Okay, so we're talking about the creation story, and we're going to quickly go retouch on how physical matter is created. You know, like we gave that example of the ocean is 7 miles deep at 's deepest point, approximately. So the other day we took a water bottle and said a water bottle, 5 gallon. It's basically 1 foot, you know, 1 foot in diameter. Put 2 of those on top, you see how heavy it is. 3, see how heavy that is. Now let's go 7 miles of this. So 7 miles, and every foot there's the weight of a 5 gallon thing of water. How much does a 5 gallon thing of water weigh? Anybody know? Is that 40 pounds, 50 pounds? Can anybody check right now? Just look on wherever, Google it. How much does a 5 gallon container of water weigh? I think it's 50 pounds. I think it's around there. Okay, let's be conservative. If nobody's sending back the number here, let's be conservative and say it's 30 pounds. We know it's more than 30. So we're being conservative now. Okay, so 30 pounds every feet. So a mile is what? 5,000 and something. I don't know how much. It's 5,400 and something like that. The ocean is 7 miles deep. So let's be really conservative here and narrow it down to 5,000. And we're narrowing 5,000 even down a little bit more conservative to only 30 pounds per foot in 7 miles. We got 5 times 7, 35,000 feet. So let's multiply 35,000 times 30. How much is that? 3, 9. My brain ain't working.
105,000. 35,000 times 3.
Yeah.
105,000.
105,000 times. Wait, how did we arrive at that? What did I say?
35,000 times 3.
Times 30.
Times 30?
Yeah, sorry, times 30. We're looking for pounds. So every foot, there's 30 pounds times 35,000 feet.
1,050,000.
1,050,000 pounds. That is what's on the bottom of the ocean at the 7 miles. Of course, this is where I'm saying conservative. Maybe it's a little less, maybe it's more, whatever, you know, but we all know it's a huge amount. So just if we're going to these narrowed off numbers, we're looking at 1 million. What do we say?
1,050,000.
1,050,000 pounds. Now, if you were laying there and you had one on top of you, you could handle that. What? 7 miles deep, just at the bottom of just our ocean. Just what we know from the surface of the ocean to the bottom, the deepest part, 7 miles, 1 million. Again, I forget, whatever, over 1 million pounds on top of you of just water. That's the column of water in water bottles just directly on top of you. But the reality is of the pressure of the ocean is not limited to the water that's in the ocean. The pressure on the ocean is actually what factors into it is what is above the water also. So you can weight a physical water, that's there in the ocean, and it's so much, but we don't consider that the water that's on top of the ocean, that is air that you breathe in, that this is also weight and pressure. So the weight and pressure, when we say at the center of or the bottom of the ocean, this is you're limiting yourself if you're only thinking from where the surface of the water of the ocean is and 7 miles deep there. No, you're limiting yourself. You are not comprehending the vastness of the water pressure that we are truly dealing with. So if you go to wherever the outer edge of the Earth's atmosphere is, I don't know how far that is, to send a rocket out to get to the point of where it's out of the atmosphere, when it's there, then that's where the water pressure stops. So that very last part of the atmosphere where maybe it's an ounce of pressure on you. Maybe not even that, to where it gets to that point now where like it's floating apart. But we know, just like our body, there's a skin holding it in. So there is a thin membrane, just like in our bodies. You think of if you are a hunter, or if you ever hunted, or if you ever cleaned a deer or something like that, that when you skin the animal and you look at the complexity of the muscle system, you think that in this arm right here, like to go like this, you might think there's one muscle right there. Well, no, because your arm turns all kind of different ways to do all kind of different whatevers. So that means you have a complexity of muscle systems there, not just one muscle to go like this. It's also another muscle to go like that. So all kinds of different muscles in there, and each muscle is separated by this thing that they call, is it fascia or fuchsia? Fascia. So fascia within our system is pretty much invisible. Like you can't even detect it unless you cut something apart like a deer, and you're going to cut it to eat it, and then it's visible to you. Otherwise, you don't know about that. These are the things that we just don't know. So, but by hunting deer and other animals, then these are things that we become familiar with. But something also to compare here, to know about our us and the fascia between our muscles and animals and stuff like this. And then you think of fish. Fish don't have that. Fish have it around their whole body. It's like on the interior of their scales, like where our skin would be. It's like that's our skin, like the fishes, where the fascia is. But then on the outside of their skin, they have scales. And the inside of them, in their muscles, they do not have, or their body, they don't have that. There's no fascia there. So it's just something to know about the difference between some animals, some living things. Okay, so then we can see or begin to wrap our mind around the pressure at the bottom of the ocean. So we think whatever we said there, what was it, 1,050,000 pounds? But I don't know if that's how you actually how you actually measure it. So, I'm not the expert here, but we can all pretty much think in the ballpark here. And that's all you need to do. Just think in the ballpark. You don't need to know specifics here of how many ounces and 1 million, how many tons and how many pounds, how many ounces. So the pressure from the ocean, the water, 1,050,000. the pressure from above the ocean, which you don't consider to be ocean, you don't consider it to be water pressure, but you know that if there is a storm over water, you know, it's a high pressure system. So a high pressure system does what? It puts pressure on what? Other things. Well, if it's land, it's putting pressure on land. You can even feel that sometimes when there's a high pressure system over you, you can feel your ears like it gets like you hear almost that low octave, like it goes down. Your hearing gets muffled, and then you got to close your nose and blow out through your ears, just like when you're diving in the water and you know that every 6 feet there is what they call an atmosphere, one atmosphere every 6 feet, so you can feel the pressure more and more. Okay, so this is a lot of pressure just here we're talking about here on our Mother Earth. Now, our Mother Earth has this, prior to being Earth, it's water gathering, and it's not just for the Earth, it's for our solar cell. It's to activate the sun. And this duplicates in every physical matter. It duplicates in every planet, in every moon. It's a duplication, as you know. A cellular division in us, by the time I get to be 6'3" and I can reach out that far, from the time I'm a little baby and I can only reach this far, well, by the time I'm there, it's still the same cellular division as when it started, from the egg form to my baby form to my full grown form. So the cellular division is a constant. It is a repetitive thing that when you get enough cells, then it builds, gets a critical mass, and it builds a new thing. So this is where we come from. And so now the pressures of the water building in our solar cell is what creates the pressures building to create the individual planets. And so they are a duplicate of the first one. So the first one is this. It's the water, pressure, till at the center of this pressure, again, there's a collapse under its own weight. It collapses onto itself. And where it collapses onto itself, this is a thermonuclear reaction. It sparks the lightning. And the lightning, the thermonuclear reaction, causes a fusion of material. And so soon as this happens in the center, then the outside of this explosion, this plume that's going outwards, the fusing creates the thing like fascia. This is the first thing that's created. It's not automatically a hard thing like my head. It's first a soft thing until it gets to critical mass and creates more and more and more until, you know, then you can have something like an egg where it's completely, you could say, begins completely liquid inside, but a hard shell. And so the thermonuclear reaction at the center of all this water pressure causes this implosion, causes this plume, causes the hardening, because where is this? Where is this implosion, this thermonuclear implosion? Fire. It's in water. And it's at the center of a lot of water. So, you know, the center of a lot of water, it's cold. Go to the bottom of the ocean, it's cold. You're gonna have to have your winter jacket on there. So, you know that when, soon as where this collapses into itself, that at the same time, just like the fissures that are coming out of the bottom of the ocean, these fissures start from just a little hole, just a little crack, and the heat coming out, connected or touching the freezing cold, causes that hardening. Because don't forget, it's not just something like being released, like just the pressure. It's a heat. It's that thermonuclear reaction. That's the exhaust from that. So the exhaust of it is the stuff of life. It's the equivalent of when you see a neutron star collapsing into itself, and it in turn releases into the waterverse gold, silver, platinum, all the stuff that is the part of the periodic table that is needed to build our building blocks. So it's the same thing. It's a repeat. It's a constant on every level, this thing. So at the bottom of the ocean, as soon as this happens, it touches the cold, it creates a hard, a cold cell. Is it raining?
Mhm.
Oh, well, a cold shell, outer shell. Okay, so when this happens, at the same time, when you are in water, water is the blueprint of life. Water is life, but when you're in the center of water and this thermonuclear reaction happens, you are then a sphere. And a sphere that is having a thermonuclear reaction within it becomes an activated atom. It's like the stuff of life is there, a physical thing, but it's not activated. It needs to be turned on. And what turns it on is that thermonuclear reaction. Just like when the sperms swim to an egg, talking about humans here, in the past they said, oh, the strongest sperm gets to the egg and that's what fertilizes the egg. It's not true. It's never been true. You'd have to be dumb to believe that, because that is an extrapolation of what we see in our world, in the human world. Is that what happens? The strongest guy gets to the beautifulest girl and I'm gonna take you and you're gonna be my woman. Is that what happens? Is that how it works? That's how cavemen work. Apparently, bang them over the head and then you got them. But the reality is when we look at how we interact with female and male, we know that it's not the strongest male that gets to the most beautiful and he gets to do whatever. That's not what happens. So we'd have to be dumb. You'd have to be dumb to believe that's what happens, that the strongest sperm gets to the egg. Who believes this? Dumb people. Only dumb people. And so the reality is once those dumb people created an electromagnetic microscope, the electron magnetoscope back in 1980, then once they developed that, then they were able to see that their dumb theory was dumb, that their theory wasn't true. They were able to see then that a whole bunch of sperms got to the egg, not the strongest sperms. It's not true. All the sperms are the strongest sperms. How they got to the egg is through the exact same process of how salmon get upstream to spawn. How do they do that? Is it one salmon? No, it's all the salmon together. How do they do that? This is the crazy thing. It's like ants. You ever see ants build a bridge from over there to over there? It might be 6 feet apart. How the heck is one ant going to reach 6 feet? They can't. It's impossible. But yet you'll see a bridge of ants spanning 6 feet. This is a proven scientific reality. So we see then how ants do it. They go one on top of the other. But how do they do that? To get across a 6 foot span? That is some kind of cooperation. How the hell does a salmon get up a 30-foot waterfall? How does a salmon get up 10 30-foot waterfalls? How does a salmon get up a 60-foot waterfall? Never mind that. Imagine any one of us trying to swim up a waterfall, even just trying to climb up a waterfall. On your own, a salmon cannot do that. They are doing the exact same cooperative behavior as ants do, as sperms do, as wolves do, as bears do, as everything does, except humans. Humans are the only ones that do not do. And so the reality of the sperms that get to the egg is that it's because they are all helping each other. Because if you consider the environment that sperms have to travel in, this is a toxic environment for sperms. It's toxic. One sperm on its own cannot survive within that environment where the sperm is going, where they're trying to get to that egg. They can't survive in there. So what happens, you have millions, trillions of sperm. I don't know how much, like if they say if it's in the millions, the billions, or the trillions. I guess it all depends on different things. But there's a lot. So it takes a lot to go into this place that is toxic, because the outer amount of, like, say it's a school of salmon. Well, there's salmon at the center, salmon everywhere, until it's like this big column of salmon coming at you. So imagine like maybe a 6-foot round pipe, and it's all salmon swimming. So if it's like this within where the sperms are swimming to, then the ones on the outside are dying off. They're finding it hard to swim. They come in, yay, but then they'll get a hard time to wiggle around. Can't really move. They can't really get anywhere. Oh, they stay right there and they die right there. But if not for that effort, the sperm right next to them would not be able to swim 10 feet further than them. And then let's say if they got to get 100 feet, say. So it's because of the ones that couldn't make it, they died. Gave the footing for the other ones to crawl on top of them to get a little further, like salmon, like those ants that can span that 6-foot distance. And so it's all the strongest. All the sperms are the strongest. All the males are the strongest. If we help each other and work together, we are all the strongest. We all attain. We all reach the place that we want to reach. And then when we're there, then she chooses. She emits that electrical charge, that lightning, from the center of the egg to who she selects, who she chooses. And so then, once that sperm is selected through that lightning, it is given in the lightning. It takes on a new form, because that sperm, until it gets that lightning charge, all it can do is like dig its head into the egg there, and it just wiggles around until it dies. But that lightning charge alters the sperm, enabling it to pass through what it could not pass through before. So here you can see a glimpse of eligibility and qualification. This is part of law. It happens on our smallest scale of renewal. It happens on molecular scale where our cells, where cellular division happens. And so if it happens in cellular division, it happens in everything that those cells build up, what they make up. So cells make up sperms, cells make up eggs. So that cellular division law applies to the interaction of those sperms and those eggs and the interaction between them. So what we have to keep remembering is that we are going from one realm of consciousness to the next, and everyone is a repeat of the level before it. And that level of consciousness is our physical being. So we think that, look how hard my head is. We think this is physical matter. In reality, it's not. In reality, this hard head is only an experience. It's an experience that is recorded like a dream, recorded and filed in Sky Woman's dream. Okay, so once you have this center, the core created this way, resulting from that electrical charge. So you see the electrical charge, it's not coming from those, all that pressure that's on top. It's not coming from those sperms that are coming from there. It's coming from what is there at the center. And in the very first instance, what is there at the center is created by all that pressure of water. This is the paradox of us, of how, like a heart, goes in and out, expands and contracts. We are the paradox of life, where we begin in one place and we make that cycle around And when we come back, it's like the heart. We've expanded, we've contracted. And so in the first instance of expansion, when that thermonuclear reaction happens, then this is when cellular division begins. So it's all that water, all that pressure in the body of ocean, of making up our Mother Earth, of making up our solar cell, of making up our galactic cell. It's all that pressure at the center that activates the cellular division, like a baby, an embryo, where it's dividing, to be able to create more mass. And as it creates more mass, that baby being formed is when in human. So I'm going to talk on different levels here. We're going to talk about what's going on in the cellular level of just life, cells, earth, water, all of that. But then it's always extrapolated to the life of a baby. So you always, a human baby, always got to think that, correlate right across. Okay, so that baby is being formed for a certain period of time, with not determined by us, but at that instance of where it's the first time that it's happening, well, that baby is being formed within this whole containment up until a specified period of time, which it is yet to be determined. At that first instance, yet to be determined. So the first instance where it is then determined, well, it took this long. They didn't know how long it took this long to create to have the cellular division on the interior, where the life can leave from the interior and come to the exterior. This is what we know happens within every human. The human is being put together on the interior. And we know that it gets to a point of critical mass of where there's enough stuff on that baby to be able to come into the world. At a certain point, you don't have enough stuff. There's not enough skin, there's not enough whatever. You can't be born yet. So that's where we said at the very first instance, it's yet to be determined. And so when it's yet to be determined, you do not make plans on what is yet to be determined, such as naming babies. You do not do that. People like to do this. Okay, yeah. Well, you can come up with some names, like what if it's a boy? What if it's a girl? Oh yeah, what if it's a boy that's born in the new moon or the full moon? Oh, does that matter to you? No, it doesn't matter to you, because your name that you're going to give to your son or your daughter is either Pete or Sally or Susie or John. These names mean nothing. So you're not associating any bit of reality to your family, to your continuum. And so, for instance, here, myself, my sons are named appropriately. Ranahahawi, Rorakwayas. Well, it doesn't sound anything like Pete or John or Malcolm. What do they mean? What do those names mean? They mean absolutely nothing. But if you look back in the white man's world, well, then it goes back to people who were basically blind followers of corruption. Pete, Paul, Mary, John, and then everybody in the white world names their children this, that go to a corruption, and natives name their children that. That goes back to a corruption. So, you know what? Stop naming your children according to a corruption that people have inflicted upon you. Name your children according to your own identity. Well, let's see, what is that identity? My son was born in the full moon. My youngest son was born right on the full moon. Wow, that changes his name from John, because John don't mean Jack, but full moon is a power. And so my son's name is associated to that. And so there's reality there. There is meaning. There is connection that person has. If your name is just John, well, that's all your name is connected to. Just a John. It's not connected to anything of meaning. So just imagine if you had the ability to name yourself at birth, what would you name yourself? Well, at birth, you know that you are a part of this process of being put together. You're the baby, you're going through it. All the workers are there drilling your arm on, you're putting the screws in, they're putting the stuff in your head. All the workers are there. So you know the whole process. What would you name yourself? Maybe you would name yourself cellular division. No, maybe not, but you would name yourself something appropriate to how you're coming into this world, or where, or whatever, at the time. So anyways,
We only have 1 hour battery left.
As the physical matter is fused, each cell, like each baby that a mother has, is identified and named. So everything within creation, if you think from the center of the earth where this thermonuclear reaction happened, and as cells built on the outside, our mother knows all of her children. So if you're thinking of through the earth, dirt, rock, solid matter, well, every cell in that dirt has a name. Ma knows it's her children. Every matter within that rock has a name. It's her children. These are all sacred things. All children are sacred. Even today, people are saying, all children, what's that saying? All children's lives matter. Well, all children of our Mother Earth lives matter. And all her children can be found in her cellular division. And so when it gets to critical mass, excuse me, like that baby gets to critical mass ready to be born, it was determined for a human baby, it takes 9 moons for that human baby. Almost specifically an exact amount of days. Almost specifically an exact amount of minutes even. You can go down to. So anyways, then once that baby's at critical mass, able to be born, then just like a baby in the womb of a mother, imagine if there was a first woman, if it was true, imagine like what these religious people believe, that all of a sudden there was 2 humans. Somebody they call Adam and somebody they call Eve. Imagine just you and I like this in the world, first time, and imagine, well, they figured out how to have sex. And imagine then the woman's belly, what was happening to her, if it was true, this crazy concept of that God made these 2 people, and that's how it happened. If it started from human form, what would that girl think? She might go crazy. What the hell is happening to me? What's going on with my belly? She might even try to maybe pop that, maybe punch it down. Like, you don't know. So that didn't happen that way. Any God believers are stupid people. That it happened from cellular division. And cells are conscious. So cellular division is the way of how we got here, of how we became familiar. By the time we're humans, that woman is going to have a baby in her belly. It's not that we were humans and then all of a sudden we discovered a baby is in the belly of a mother to give birth. Impossible that way. This would be a total shock to the system. It would be a toxic shock even to the system. It would poison the mother because the mother would need a foundational build-up to that, which would take generations, which did in fact happen through cellular division. And so when this happened, the baby is born. Just so happens now we'll go to Google Earth to now talk about this, to show it. Okay, we have to go to the South Pole. Okay, so right there, you look at the South Pole, you look at that, that's a brain. That's a blueprint to us. That's a human brain and the spinal column. So that's our foundations, and all of creation on our Mother Earth is based on this blueprint, and everything that is, every tree, every rock, every waterfall, every animal is all designed to be the structure that goes over the human skull, the spinal column. So everything, every tree, every rock, every bird, everything, that's part of our body. This is part of the human body. Okay, so the where the baby is born out of our mother earth is within the axis point. You only have two axes on a rotating object. So on a rotating object, an axis point, I need my jumping on. So an axis point is this in a rotating object. It's where it has a top and a bottom. So we know where this is on our mother earth. Right now we are looking at the top of the earth. The South Pole is the top of mother earth. And this is where if you had a cup overflowing, where's it going to overflow from? Where will the liquid overflow from? Will it overflow out of the bottom of the cup or the top of the cup? So it come out of the top of the cup. This is the reason why this comes out, everything comes out of the top of our mother earth. And so this is where the infused material grew out from the axis point of our mother earth. So think of this rotating object. This is the centrifuge. So if you're on the inside of this, I don't know if you can see this right now. Maybe we should cut that image. Okay, so if you see this right now, this is rotating. Imagine our mother earth. So if you were here, or if you're anywhere outside of the central axis column, you know, from south to north or up to down. So if you're anywhere outside of this, then while this thing is turning, then you're getting, like a centrifuge, you're getting pushed out to the sides. And as that gets pushed out, it puts a pressure back, you know, on the outer. So you got an inner and outer pressure here, like a heart, in and out, in and out. Okay, so while this is rotating, then what is being created at the center, the fusing, can only come out either from this column that reaches to the top or the bottom to the axis point. So it comes out through the top, because you're talking about at the center, it's basically boiling water. So where does boiling water go? Boiling water goes up. So it comes out of the South Pole. And okay, we can go back. It comes out of the South Pole, and as it's boiling, you know, as this is fusing, not only does it have the fusing with the cold water, but now it has a different fusing once it touches atmosphere, out water. Now it's not atmosphere yet, but it is the place of where atmosphere would be. So it is having a different interaction with the air. As you know, it's real, right? You look in your veins and you can tell that your blood is green in your veins, but you get a cut, and the moment that your blood touches air, it oxidizes. So we know things change by the moment it comes from the interior to the exterior. We know that with even just a baby. So from the inside, a baby is breathing water. Once the baby's outside, for us, we notice today that you're no longer breathing water. What happens? Well, you got to clean out suck out the mucus out of the baby. It's not really mucus when you think what mucus is. It's like that kind of stuff. What's in the baby is not that kind of stuff. It's not mucus in the baby's throat, in the baby's nostrils, in his ears, in their ears, in their eyes, and whatever else. It's not mucus. That's amniotic fluid. That's the stuff of life. And this is the stuff that sustains that baby from the inside, creating it, cellular division, causing the baby to get the critical mass to be born. And once it's outside, now it's cellular division, body is exposed to the outside and it becomes a different mass. So this is where all land comes from. It all comes from right there in so-called South America, South Pole. Now, what you see happening, let's go that image up a little bit here. What you see happening right there, this is the 9-moon gestation. That once, you know that about approximately 7 moons into the gestation process, the baby has to turn upside down. Okay, this is something that happens, right? No mother has to tell your baby, it's time to turn upside down. The mother doesn't have to like work her belly, like to go like this, like to turn that baby upside down. No, the baby does this because the baby knows. Why? Because the baby is a collective of cells that is originating from the first cell, cellular division. And so that first cell has the blueprint in it, and every cell does. And so the conglomeration of cells within a baby knows that it is time to turn upside down. Every baby on earth knows this because of that image right there. Every baby on earth turns upside down because of this. This is our original turning upside down, our original inversion. Inversion is necessary in order to perceive reality. Without the inversion, you are not perceiving reality. You are in a certain reality, but when you come from a different realm, you have to have inversion to be able to understand where you're at, to be able to compute, to be that being knowing how to live in this reality. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're just going to go quickly over the DNA of our Mother Earth. We're looking at here, you see that turn, where that turn is? This is the beginning. It's the spinal column. So it is the beginning of the physical body. And where you see it come out, like what science tells you that we crawled out of the ocean, well, yeah, look, it's right there. That's where we crawled out of the ocean, right at the tip of so-called South America, where they say Patagonia. This is where we crawled out of the ocean. So this is what you can see is the DNA. You can see it under the water. You can see it due to modern technology. It's Google Maps that enables us to see this. What's Google Maps? It's satellite imaging of our Mother Earth, able to penetrate deep into the water and to see what is there. And so this is the reality that we know happens in humans. So we can now see it on the earth. So it's easy for us to extrapolate not only cellular division being the exact same thing within our bodies, but we are the cellular division within the body of our Mother Earth. And so we know then what a cell in our body looks like, what a cell in our body does, what it thinks of, the consciousness that it has, because we are the cell of our Mother Earth, and we're extrapolated from the cells within us. We are the consciousness of creation. We are the central point of consciousness. Life looks like us. Sky Woman looks like us, the most beautiful woman. And so every realm of her reality, every different point of critical mass, which takes on your reality, is an exact duplicate of her in every level. Okay, so, but yet each one takes on a process. So we look at cellular division, and we know then that, well, our DNA cannot happen without cellular division. So cellular division itself creates the DNA. It's created within it, because when cells divide, they're all still yet connected to each other. So what connects something to each other? Well, if it's us, you might think we're holding hands, but what if you're just a blob, like a one-celled amoeba, a one cell, and dividing, and you're holding what? What is it that connects? This is the DNA that's created by the cell. In the cellular division, the DNA is connected from the heart of one cell to give blood to the next cell, because again, if those cells expand, and they don't have blood in it, they die. It tells you there's a heart expanding into it, each one connecting. So the heart blood pump is the DNA. The DNA, physical matter, is created out of what? The love of the expansion and contraction. Just like what it happens, we know that's what happened because that's how we create babies. We all know that. We, cells of our Mother Earth, we create babies through expansion and contraction. That's a fact. So we can extrapolate this to what we cannot see and what we can see, and we can figure out where we are in between these things and then know that it is a continuum. It's not hard to figure these things out. So then we can see how DNA is created. In the first instance, DNA is but one strand. And so what you're seeing there on the so-called west coast of so-called South America is you are seeing the first DNA. So so-called South America, this is the first step. It is female. All of so-called South America, everyone that is there, every animal, everything that is there is within female. It is life giver. But yes, everything has a duality. So yes, there is male within there also. But the overall of that cell is female. Just like the overall of another cell would be male, but yet it still has female in it in order for it to have the duality. So either at any given time, the cell of it being female or male is determined by our origins, what was shown there in our Mother Earth, which is determined by our grandmother Moon. So you will be determined as if you're going to be female or male. But, you know, I was determined to be male, but yet there's still female inside of me. You were determined to be female, but there's still male inside of you. So we're looking at the reality of the polarity. Female polarity, male polarity. And so keep understanding that there's the other polarity in it. It's an I'm going to say oxymoron. It's a paradox. Something that is, but just can't be. So anyways, the DNA continues here, forming the first step of the shape of DNA, of it like this. And so you go up and you'll see right at, again, Venezuela, right at this Lake Maracaibo, right there to the right, where you see in the water, where the strand of DNA breaks off in the water there. So this is where the lightning is striking constantly. Ever since the white man stepped foot there for 500 years, they've recorded nonstop lightning. There has been a couple of days where it has stopped over time, but that is the exception. It's not the rule. The exception is only for a couple of days and it stopped. And it's not continuous days. It's one day here in maybe this set of 100 years, and then in another set of 100 years, it stopped one day there. So it is a continuum, but just like you stop for a day when you got your moon. So it's a process of what is happening constantly in the woman's body. So we understand from looking at what's happening in the woman's body and extrapolating from what we can determine on cellular division, and then looking at what we know, what we can see and experience on the larger body of our Mother Earth. So right there, let me see. I'm gonna point. Let me see. Can I use that? Can I use it over here? Will it work? Oh yeah. Okay. Whoa. Okay. So right here, you can see that it starts to come apart in like strands of it. It's coming apart. So it's here that it breaks off and it goes back underwater. Okay, why is it on land and then underwater? Because if you're looking at DNA, it does this, right? It turns, it rotates. One goes to the top, one goes underneath. So we're creating on the surface of our Mother Earth. And so on the surface of our Mother Earth here, to make it go underwater, because otherwise it will just loop around. Like you see, it's kind of doing that, like just kind of looping around. You could almost imagine it, see it go like in a circle here, you know, like that. But here it breaks off through that lightning. It's selected, again, appointed by our mother, just like the same way that an egg selects the sperm. So here it is selected, appointed to now go under the amniotic fluid to create that action of the rotation of the DNA. And so you see the other DNA continues here. So this means that, okay, here, it's not working for me. So we'll go look at the other part now up. And so you can see right there where it breaks off and it comes in like through the Caribbean islands, you know, to Florida, and it takes on the Appalachian Mountains up to the Adirondacks, that goes right up past the through Anishinaabe territory. I forget what they call those mountains, right up until the right-hand side of James Bay. And you can see it continue into the land, underwater and into the land, because there it was supposed to rotate again. Okay, now this part of so-called North America, this is the male side, because so-called South America is female. So female is the first. So the second one that's created is the male. Now, the second one now, male, has the two within. Remember, let's keep remembering this. The three, the two that comes from the one. We got to keep remembering this. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so the so-called North America, male, but duality in it. So the East, as you can see, the original one from the South went over to what we're looking at anyways, to the right. If we can maybe just scoot down there again, 1 second. So the original one there in Venezuela, where it breaks off, you see it goes over to the East Coast, the right side of what we're looking at right now. So it goes to the East Coast. So the one that is from the female going over to the East Coast is now into the male. It is the female side. So the East Coast is the female side of the male, being North America. This is why the East Coast mountains there, it's like you take a female compared to a male, it's much more easier. It's user friendly, you know, it's nicer. The East Coast mountains, not much to worry about there. You know, it's pretty safe. It's user friendly for humans. Best place on earth. You go over to the West Coast, this is the male side. Well, you look at those mountains there. Male side, very rough, very unfriendly, you know, very by itself, even just like male bears want to be by themselves. Very solitude, because anybody in that side, you know, in those mountains, you're by yourself. You know, you're spending a lot of time by yourself. So it's the male side there. And so where you can see over like where the East Coast, where it the Adirondacks are pushing into like PEI and Newfoundland, and even the North Shore of Labrador, and that you can see that is coming over like the way DNA would. It's working its way over to the left to do what DNA does, to wrap around each other. But the male dominance, the corruption happened around Hopi territory, just around Hopi territory, where the male DNA, let's go just solely to the West Coast. Let's look more west. A little more, put it like, yeah, right center of the screen and bring it down.
That?
Down. No, no,
No.
down. No, no.
Make it big, yeah.
The other one.
Down like that?
Yes, but zoom in more. Okay, right there. Okay, so right around Hopi territory, this is where there's a problem there with male dominance. The male dominance happened. And so where you see where it gets to Alaska, you see the way that bend in it there is? That's the DNA that is supposed to loop over this way and wrap over around with the one that is coming from Labrador. But it's this one, the male on the West Coast, that went out of order. And so let's go to the left there. Let's look through the Aleutian Islands. You'll look at where it went. The DNA went again underwater. And look, as you see, it broke away. And that's where that little, but when we have that, it's gonna be easier to see. Think.
It's sensitive.
So sensitive. This little part right here that breaks away, this is a burr. It's like a burr that breaks off on a branch when you break it. That's what happens. So that's the DNA cracking right there. So this is the first strand. This one that goes over to the Kamchatka River out of Russia. Oh no, Kamchatka River out of Russia. It's over here. It's more over here. So this is the first strand. So this part right here is supposed to be over here. It's supposed to connect right at the North Pole. That's precisely where it's supposed to be because it started right at the South Pole. And the in and out, it's a rhythm. It goes according to plan, order, there's structure, there's balance. So a rotating object, you look at a blender. Any blender, it rotates and you see which way the metal is on the blender, whatever you call that, the thing on the blender. The prongs, okay, they don't go sideways. They go straight up and down. In order to have balance, like to have harmonic balance in an engine, you can't have parts of your engine too heavy over here and heavy over here. They got to be harmonically balanced. So you look at a blender, that's how it would be harmonically balanced, where it is going right around our sphere. Not the way that the land goes on the other side of the earth. So here is the first strand that broke away. Uh-oh. Oh, okay, I didn't want to do that. Oh my goodness. Okay, you go ahead and do it. Let's just follow those strands of DNA now. We'll show you the 7 strands. See it as it goes? It's on the bottom of the ocean. But wait, let's go back to the first one. No, the first one.
Yeah.
Let's zoom in there. You see that line taking off from there? This is why the reason why the Japanese feel that they have some reason, a connection to Hawaii. Because look at that. That goes right to Hawaii. And from Hawaii, you'll see it goes right to the direction of where it broke off around Hopi territory. They're trying to get back. The people in Hawaii, they came to their senses and they broke away from that male dominant corruption. Let's go to Hawaii. Look at right there. Right at the bottom there, bottom left, that's Hawaii. Let's see that. Okay, now from Hawaii, follow that gray crack right there at the bottom of the ocean. Follow that inwards, inland.
What crack, sorry.
Right there, right at the bottom of Hawaii, that dark crack right there where you are, right there. Follow that line. Follow it. inland.
Mhm.
Keep going, follow it, right to inland. See that, where it goes? It goes right to where the original break was. Right to where it broke. It's trying to get back. There is a correction happening internal in our Mother Earth. What happens when it's complete? Let's go back and look from Japan and let's follow the DNA to where it just dead ends. Hang on. Okay, so from there, not the one that goes to Hawaii, you see the DNA, the shape of it, it continues. So the first one is to Japan. The second one is to, what is that, Philippines? Third one is still whatever, the Philippines. Fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, until the final small seventh one. This is like, imagine an electrical wire that breaks off and it's a live wire and it just swirling around. So that's what's happening to the DNA there. It goes nowhere. It's an energy, it's a power that broke off and it's just swirling around. So this is the DNA of our Mother Earth. And the DNA of our Mother Earth is what created that landmass, but that landmass there that you see, that is where the non-native is, this is all false. It's artificial because it is not connected to anything. Let's go to the end of that land, Europe and that, and let's see, what is it connected to? No, the other way.
Like that?
Europe. Europe is to your right. Okay, now turn it back upside down, turn it, rotate it to your left.
Like that?
No, look at me, like this. See where Europe, we want to see Europe. Okay, basically what's at 1 o'clock right now, you have to bring that down to 7 o'clock.
This,
Keep rotating it.
it's not easy to do.
Okay, well, we're looking at the world upside down there, but anyways, you know what you're looking at. Now try to find that land connected to anything. Now, even what is on the bottom there, bring it up. Let's see. What's it connected to? Finland, the end of land? Where is it connected? Where is any of that land connected? Nowhere. So you know what you're looking at right there at the Aleutian Islands, what's at the bottom right now, say it's 6:30 right there. Yeah, right there. You see that little thing? You know what that is? That's the God syndrome. That's Michelangelo's painting of the son trying to touch the father. No, it's where the son broke away from the mother. And they know that's the source of life. That's the God syndrome. This is the male dominance. You're seeing it in the DNA of our Mother Earth, and you can wonder, then why did everybody on that side of the world go so crazy? Why are they all warmongers? It's because they went male dominant. Now, from here, let's just show Europe. Just Europe, all of that in Europe, that hemisphere of the globe. Now I'm going to show you where the white man came from. Because as you see, as the land grew from the South Pole into so-called South America and North America, the skin grew also on your body. Not just the bones grew that long and it poked out of your skin. No. As your bones grew, all the muscles and the tendons and the flesh and everything and your skin grew at the same rate, the same pace. So this tells us that as the land grew, all the life grew on top of it. Also, we grew, humans grew at the same time. So, you know where humans come from? We don't come from Africa. We do not come from primates. If you want to come from primates, that's good for you. If you want to associate yourself as that, that's fine. But the reality is Africa is the youngest place on earth. The youngest. It's not the oldest. The youngest. Now let's look at, you'll say, well, you'll find the oldest fossils there on earth. Okay, let's look at what we talked about the other day about any archaeologist trying to find proof of that we lived here. Try to find proof. You find any archaeological sites where there's native people, where there's cemeteries, where there's this or that. No, you know why? Because we live with the land, natural. We don't leave a stupid footprint. We don't do that. The non-native did. And so they believe that while they dig up their proof of their ancestors, which is stupid in the first place, imagine digging up your ancestors. No, they do that in the first place, and they think, well, they extrapolate that to us. Well, we mustn't have any ancestors over here. The reality is Africa is wild, right? Isn't it wild? Compared to any other place on earth, would you say that Africa is wild compared to other places? So other places are more tame, right? Okay, let's see. How does evolution work? Do we start off tame and become wild, or do we start off wild and become tame? How does that work? It works that way, right? Okay, so you know what? Where you're going to see still wild, it's because it's young. It didn't evolve yet. It didn't grow through these stages yet. But the reality of Africa, it's a creation. It's a creation of male dominance, the same way that white is a creation of male dominance. The black is a male creation of the male dominance. This isn't to say that black people are not real and white people are not real. Yes, they are real. When they return back through all that corruption that they have done and back to their original state as to what was here in Turtle Island. But what happened, as you see, the male dominance, you can see it in the DNA. Okay, what is that? The DNA, when we're looking at it on Earth, kind of looks like a serpent. So there was a serpent in the garden. You recorded it. It's in your history. You recorded it. But you are the serpent. And the serpent was cast out of this garden. We cast it out. And it was sent a certain way. And as it went that way, it was us. It looked just like us. No difference than us. What happens when you put all those colors together that they say, red, black, yellow, black, white, yellow, brown? Put all those colors together, you get red. And they call us the red man. We're not really red, but they come back to the color that we are. Pigmentation. Because look at where all the life lives. It lives on top the surface. It needs the pigmentation. Where the male dominance is it's under. It was cast out. It's not in the light. And this is the reason why there's no pigmentation to it. So what happened? Okay, for now, let's come back here. Yeah, let's come back here. We're going to put that image away for now. Just leave it. Just leave it there, but come back to the camera. Just the camera. Here, this camera. Okay, so now the serpent is cast out of the garden. I don't have my book. So you just picture that image of where at the Aleutian Islands that serpent went over and created its own land, created its own mind. Remember how male dominance works. Male dominance deals first with two hemispheres of the brain, but male dominance cancels out the primary part. This is, in fact, what the male dominance of the other side of the world has done. It's come over here to cancel out the female side of the brain, cancel out the love, cancel out peace on earth. The only place peace on earth exists is here in Turtle Island, because our mothers are the authority, because we stay true to the law of cellular division on every level of existence that we are on. Yes, we are multidimensional beings, and multidimensional beings must stay within law in every dimension that we exist within. Because if we affect no law into one dimension, then this is not in the here and now where you will feel the effects. You will feel it somewhere later down the line. And later down the line, you will not be able to do anything to fix it. And so this is the corruption in the non-native world. Mistake after mistake, corruption after corruption, never fixing a damn thing. And so today, what you are experiencing, the non-native people, the white people around the world, you are going to experience the water emergency much differently than we will. just like the white people, the origins of the corruption in Britain, they're experiencing it much different. They're full of shit. They're covered in shit in their water. Because that's what they are. They have done this. Male dominance is shit. And so what happens is that as this serpent was cast out of the garden and it started to walk that way, away from truth, then this is where, like male dominance within the brain, it cancels out the female side of the brain, but the message to still think that you're okay, you have to still send a message. And it has to come back to you to say, yeah, okay, so male dominance sends a message. You want to kill to get the message back? Yeah, that's not going to come from the female side of the brain. So it's completely canceled out. So the message has to come from somewhere. The only way you get a message then from somewhere, from only one polarity, is for that polarity to create a schizophrenic identity within itself so that it can communicate with itself to affirm its own actions that it wants to do. So what male dominance is it's a state of schizophrenia. It creates inside the one polarity of male stupidity. It creates an illusion of that there's others. And this is your illusion, the non-native world, that you have others and you fight against others. But your sisters and brothers, you're killing them. You're killing yourself. And this is how you created the schizophrenic mind on the cellular level. Through the whole process of everything that we discussed up till the point of where now this division is happening on our Mother Earth, the person, the being, the male dominance cast out of the garden is walking that way. Now remember, it's one strand of DNA. It's supposed to be wrapped around the other one. So they are both the same. There's no difference between us. But when it goes crazy, it goes haywire, and it goes that way. When you see these loops that it's going this and that, what's happening is it's creating a schizophrenic identity. So as it walked that way, it looked precisely like us. And along the way, like you've seen around between the Aleutian Islands and Japan, there was one little bird going off like that. That's the one that said, no way, you're crazy, get the hell out of here. So it just went spiral back into the centrifuge. Because from there, it could not get back home. It was too close to the flashpoint. It was already part of the decision, I'm getting out of here. So when it broke off after it said, I'm getting out of here, but wait a minute, I don't, it just broke off, goes back into the centrifuge. So each one of those strands is doing that. It's trying to get back into the centrifuge. The ones in Hawaii came to their senses at Japan. And they tried to get back, and you're seeing they're still on their way back. That strain is connecting. It is reconnecting. And when it is completely reconnected, it will flip. And when it flips, everything that is artificial will flop. But those that were there, as that being walked that way, and it created these identities within itself to say, hey, you want to kill? Again, the mother brain, the female side of the brain, isn't going to comply with that. So you know that it's only within the male brain where killing is decided. So the only way that can be concluded is by creating a schizophrenic brain, a schizophrenic identity. And this is what the identities that were created, that as they walk that way, looking like us, they shed their identity. They shed cellular division. And as they shed identity and created these, through it, creating identities, this is the identities, the schizophrenia in the male dominant mind. They are not real. They are fabricated. How else do you try to make sense of at least as far as you know, at least 2,000 years of killing each other? How else can you make sense of this except to accept the fact that you are a schizophrenic collective? The only way for you to heal and to get out of this schizophrenic collective is to accept it, is to accept the reality of what you have done, what has happened, what you have been a part of. The serpent was cast out of this garden. And that serpent knows that in order for it to come back, it has to come back the way that it went. But it went to the end of the land as it shed all these identities, and it created a slave to itself. It created this newest place on earth to create this slave. That's what the black man is to the white man. The white man would not be anywhere on the planet if he did not have that black man. That's the fact. How do you get locked into such a crazy, whatever, if you want to call that a coexistence? It's not a coexistence because it's one mind that has schizophrenicized itself because of its original corruption. And so, as it walked right to the end, to its island prison in Britain, that this is where it has become complete pigmentationless because it has stripped itself complete of identity. And when it got there, the two final ones within the three said, no way, we're getting the hell out of here. This is complete insanity. And that's where the Irish and the Scots are. But they got pulled back in to the insanity. They got pulled back into that trifecta of craziness, and that British uses the Irish and the Scots worldwide to advance their efforts of war. When you meet any Scot or Irish on their own, the nicest people on the planet. What? Used collectively by the Brits, and they use their spirit through that thing that, you know, we give reference to a lot, the Pied Piper. They use that to lock the people's spirit into war. So the Scots and the Irish were the last ones to break away from the serpent that was cast out of the garden. They tried, but there's nowhere that they can go to. Their only way they know is to come back. They didn't come back because Britain used them and used their slaves to cross across the water when they were supposed to come under, like the way DNA does. DNA comes out of amniotic fluid. It doesn't go over amniotic fluid. If it is, it's not a part of the living process. And this is why we identify it's true. You are never to go across the salt waters, because the salt waters is what's in between our two strands of DNA. What is that? Imagine if there was no natural barrier between these two strands of DNA, what would happen to them? They would eventually just come together. It would go back to one. That's where they came from. They would go back to one. If you split something, you have to have something that will be like a barrier preventing it from coming back together. What is the barrier? It's the salt water. Let's put salt in your eyes. Can you do that? Let's put salt, cut your skin, put salt in there. Let's anywhere, put salt on you. What's going to happen? It's a natural, whatever, barrier, deterrent. Stay the hell out of it. You don't drink it. But what it also shows you is in the here and now that the devil is desalinating water. They're doing that right now, as you know, in Israel. Because there are corruption there, because they're artificial, because they are Britain. And so they have to be kept alive artificially. And to do that, well, you got to destroy the salt water. You got to destroy any resemblances as to what you are, who you are, so that you will never be able to get back home. You are under the control of the serpent that was cast out of the garden. And you all know that story, but it just Everybody just thinks it's a fairy tale. All the rest of religion of the I'm so great, look at me, how great man is, the mental self-glorification process, man creating God in his image. We're so great. It's locked you, women, into state of like living in their torture chamber. Because basically you are in a cage and they'll come and use you whenever they want a baby, whenever they need a soldier, they'll come and use you for that. And you gladly give your sacred eggs to them so that your sacred eggs can grow up to put a gun in its hand and to kill somebody. This is all the root of a corruption of something that happened in your cellular division. A corruption. Every cell is connected. Every cell is going through that law of cellular division. So we can conclude that from that side of the world, it is easy to conclude because everybody's mind is that way, that there is a larger corruption than what you are aware of. You can never be aware of this. It's impossible for you to be aware of it. When you are hypnotized, the person who is hypnotized will never know that they were hypnotized. And if they do know, then you'll never know what is the truth of whatever, anything. Upon being subjected to the initial male dominance, you were enslaved. And you never came out of it. What woman is okay with her sons killing people? Apparently every woman, every white woman, because they're all happy, they all agree with military. You can say you don't agree with military, but all of your actions shows that you are the impetus to military. You have been compromised. Mothers, your mothers have been compromised, enslaved, stolen the power, and used up. And when you're used up, you're tossed away. Are you happy with that existence? White women, this is your existence. And you expand this to other women who have already been free, but you go there with your men to unfree those women, to lock them back up, to take us out of this freedom of life and to put them back into a little cage of one single cell. This is the collective action, a result of everything that we just showed you. You don't have to believe it. Doesn't matter if you don't believe it. Again, we go back to the law of DNA. And we know the law of DNA is real. It's real inside of us. Correction happens, whether you make correction or not. But let's see, is correction gonna happen where there's no need for correction? There won't be a larger thing affecting correction upon you if you don't need correction. So you have time in which to correct yourself to the point of where you won't need correction. You do have time, do you? Maybe not. Maybe you don't have time at all. Maybe you're just here, like what we said, to throw yourself at the base of the tree. And you don't have to believe me that this is what's happening, but in your hearts, then you look at the news and you see the worldwide assault on water. This is not a catastrophe that something has happened natural. This is a worldwide assault on your amniotic fluid. It's now poison. What kind of babies can you have now that your water's poison? And even if you women aren't going to have babies, you don't view yourself as having babies, you're still, no matter what, every day a woman is alive in this earth is giving birth to thoughts, to dreams, to ideas. How you gonna pass that on with shit water? Your amniotic fluid has shit inside of it. What kind of baby are you gonna produce? What kind of thoughts? What kind of dreams? What are you gonna pass on? Maybe it's not a reality, what I'm saying. Maybe it's just in my head that I have concocted all of these things that actually support my fantasy that's in my head. Or maybe it's you that concocted all of the stuff to support the fantasy that's in your head. Which one is it, I wonder? And let's just imagine then, if we're both concocting a fantasy. My fantasy is about peace and love and empowerment, authority of our mothers. I need authority of mother over me. That's a fact. Without it, I know what I can do in this world. I know I can be destruction. I know what I can do. I've seen it. I've been there. I've done it. I know I need clan mother to be authority. That's just me. Do you hear any other guys saying that? Okay, is that because other guys don't need that? Or do you think other guys need that? Do you think they need it more than me? Now, how are you going to make that happen if your amniotic fluid is shit, just like the shit that's in their minds already? How are you going to clear their minds? What water do you have as a foundation to start from now? None now. We're at the end. This is the end. It's not happening right now, but we're at the end of your nightmare. That's where we're at. You can jump out of your nightmare. You can jump into reality. There may not be enough space on the canoes when you jump off the Titanic and to try to swim to safety. But that's your risk. Jump off the Titanic, try to swim to safety. If not, you know what's happening to you. It's irreversible. It's irreversible now. So what? Am I offering some way out of the thing that is worldwide irreversible? Or am I offering something to you that is going to give you life where everything else is giving you death? No, I am not. I ain't giving you nothing. I ain't presenting you with anything. Not a damn thing. It's you. It's you that's got to determine. In the reality, I'm not even here, really. My mother's voice is back there. It already happened. Your decision just didn't happen yet. Your decision has to happen. You may think you've made your decision. No way. You're not even close to it yet. To be able to make your decision, just what we talked about right here in the last couple of days, and what is going to be covered in the law, all of that, that's the knowledge of the waterverse. You got to have the knowledge of everything to make the proper decision when you are trying to save everything. You got to know everything. So I ain't offering you anything. There's nothing that I can give you, but you can bring the truth back. Only you can bring the truth back. Nobody else is going to do it. And it doesn't have to be like you repeating what I just said, expecting that to be the truth. No, it's not that. All you got to do is start enforcing your love into the world. Your law of your love. All women around the world together collectively have to do it. You cannot leave your sisters alone that are getting oppressed and so-called South America, when you see them all standing there last year and doing this, and they're all yelling and they're trying to break free, while the women here are putting on their high heels and their makeup and their lipstick and their mini skirts, and they're going with that male dominant guy that those girls in the South are complaining about. And you're with him. You're giving him the power, the impetus to do that to them. Who is you? Them is you. You're allowing it to happen to you. So all women of the world have to come together. How are all women of the world going to come together? What do you have in your arsenal of love to come together? You don't have nothing. Absolutely nothing. But something has been placed at your fingertips. Something as a little bit of air to help you breathe, to get to the end. That's the woman's nation. This is where all women can come together to stand for woman, to stand for truth, outside of all the corruptions of male dominance, outside of me, outside of every male. That's what you need. You need woman's council fire to return. I need that. Mother Earth needs that. Because you've seen what your sons are doing. Your sons are evil. They are not going to stop killing. Never. If you think the white man is going to come to his senses and stop killing, you're wrong. It's never going to happen. He needs you to do what our woman done, what Jagunsa's done. You got to be brave like a real woman. What you have done is you've hid. Yeah, you've been standing up against this guy that's been raping you for centuries. It was this way here. Never rape. This oppression. We never stooped to that insanity. But now is your final chance for all women on earth. It's all women that have to come together in one mind. And so this is where the agenda of the woman's nation is the only truth on earth. No male dominance, no false man-made religions, no lies like that. Only the authority and the power of the women under great law of peace. It's only great law of peace that just made you see what has happened on earth. It's nothing else. Even if you think, oh, well, look, that was Google Maps, so it's science that showed you. Did science show you that? Science had that for years. Did they show you it? No, they didn't. We had to learn your language to speak to you. And again, your language isn't whatever you think you're speaking, if it's French, English, Spanish, all of this, all distortions. No. Your language is this, the locution of the brain. And the locution of the brain is the language of cellular division. It's the law of creation. We had to learn how to speak your language of the brain to get you to the point where we could massage your minds, to open it up, where you can look at what the reality is. Now you're only being shown a little bit of what the reality is, and we use your science to prove it, to substantiate it. As we go into law, it's going to blow your mind, because law addresses everything, absolutely everything. In here, in your mind, in our collective mind, is in fact the knowledge of the waterverse. There's only one way to tap into that. You can see that in the non-native world, you haven't figured out. You don't know how to tap into it. Yeah, there's going to be some dumb people who are going to come on and say, oh yeah, what about these? What about that? What about these people who done this? What about this religion? It does this good and that good. People keep going back in circles, chasing their tail around in stupidity. We don't waste our time with them. I don't waste my time with them. We're only dealing with people who are on track, to awakening to the realities of this law of cellular division. You are cellular division. Get to your law. And so, not only will this law show you everything that you need to know about anything, you want to know about what's going on the other side of the waterverse. Is there Martians over there? No. You know where consciousness is? Everywhere. But you know where central point of consciousness is? It's right here. It's not out there. We are not thinking out there. Does this part right here of your body, is that the central point of consciousness? Let's look throughout the body. Gee, where is the central point of consciousness? Is it my belly button? Is it my elbow? We all know where the central point of consciousness is. So where are we? Hence the stupidity of what everyone on earth is buying into, of that you want to go out there. Go out there, hurry up, get out there, get away from here, leave us alone, leave humans alone, leave the earth, get away from here. We don't want you here. You have caused too much problems here. But if you want to be human, there's only one way we'll have anything to do with you, and that means all things on earth. Only one way we'll have anything to do with you is that if you are in a proper two-row wampum relationship, that means you will be functioning on the level of DNA. Anything else, you are a waste of time because you are the problem. I don't care if you accept that. I don't care if you like it. I don't care what you feel about it. I am saying this to you. I am enforcing it upon you. At the end of this, the entire world will have an ultimatum. It doesn't matter if you think that, who the hell am I to give the entire world an ultimatum? I am not the one to give the world an ultimatum. But I am the one that can take all of your nonsense and put it all together and figure out what it is and what you have done to show you that you have given yourself an ultimatum. And all I do is accept your self-categorization of yourself. I do not apply this and say, you're this or you're that. You have said what you are. And I accept your self-categorization. You are a monster. You have no place here on earth. Monster must go away. This is the law. This is the word of the people here in Turtle Island. It's my mother's word. I don't care. You have never abided by my mother's word. It doesn't matter to us. We have survived you. You did not survive. It's too bad for you. What time is it?
9:15.
Okay, then we're. Oh, wait a minute.
And
That's
Between 20 and 30% batteries left for them.
Okay, so then we could end right here. We're only talking about this science tonight, this stuff. Okay, anything anybody want to say, any questions or anything? Let's go there. If so, try to keep it as short as possible and concise. Don't tell your story this long. I don't want to hear it. And you know, I don't want your opinion. So if you got an opinion, keep it to yourself. If there's something that you can substantiate with fact in the public arena, then yeah, let's hear that. Okay, so if there's anything, anybody, if not, we're gonna just close.
Nobody raised their hand.
I have a question. What happened with the female part of North America?
We're still here.
This brain of DNA goes, it just stop there, or it goes again into the centrifuge?
Okay, as you see, the northeastern woodlands of Turtle Island is the richest place on earth. the most vibrant life. Again, the most user-friendly. We don't have to worry about poison spiders here or poisonous snakes or rhinoceroses, a hippo biting us in half or so. We don't got to worry about anything here. We are in the most evolved, the most refined place on earth. Our mother is safe here. See what you're hearing? All the stuff that you're hearing in the last few days now and what you're going to hear? It's because our mother's still alive here. Good luck to you anywhere else. Good luck to the mothers anywhere else. Here, I don't care. It could be all of our people that have succumbed, that are like the white man. Doesn't matter. I'm not. I'm here. I'm following my mother. My mother's voice is still here. It's still alive. It's still what is determining. Even though you got all the idiots in the sellout genocidal band systems who are kissing the white man's ass on a daily basis, doesn't matter what they do. Because let me remind you all of something. I got my truck back. What does that mean? That means I am fighting against that whole thing where all my people who want to call themselves, or they won't call themselves my people, but they who associate, they're all kissing the white man's ass. From the lesbian mayor all down to all the gender and identity confused people, they are all kissing the white man's ass. Left and right, every way they turn. My case and my case alone, throughout the entire country, before the bell rang, when that guy, the devil they called the Pope, said genocide, before that bell rang, my case is the only one, not only in the here and now, but look back anywhere, it's the only case that is not complying with their legal system, that I'm not using a lawyer, and I filed systemic racial genocide. I do not defend myself of to say guilty or not guilty. And when they say, oh, you want to cross-examine, I don't cross-examine. I'm not going to ask any question. No. Systemic racial genocide. The only one in the whole country ever. Nobody else ever took that position. Because I'm following my mother. And in that, again, the fact is that anybody who was ever arrested for what they call smuggling cigarettes, anyone who was ever arrested for that, never got their vehicles back. Never. That is a fact. When Revenue Quebec, and you've all seen the message that the prosecutor sent, oh, we want to give you your truck back. Do you want it back after a year and a half? That means in itself they got no case. But the prosecutor said to me himself, in our case, why doesn't your chief and counsel in your P case support your position? What does that mean? The prosecutor knows I won already. I've already won my case, even though it's coming up in October. The fact that Revenue Quebec gives me my truck back means that the criminal part of it has no case. When I get in there, you already know I've countersued them right now for $25 million for the systemic racial genocide. That stuff isn't ever going to play out. It's never going to happen. They'd rather kill me first. They're not going to give me $25 million. But they're not going to rule against me either. They can't. So what it means is that no matter what anybody wants to think, all the democracy in the world, they're trying to ram down our throats here. The lesbian mayor and all the gender and identity confused people don't mean jack shit to me. They don't mean nothing to me. They're not my people. They are what is identified as Ramheyo. They are dead. I accept when people categorize themselves. I accept your self-categorization. I don't argue with you. No point in arguing that. You categorize yourself as a murderer, as this or that. I accept it. And I deal with you based on what you said you are. And so I am dealing with all the people of the world right now through law recital. Don't forget, yous are all under a spell already. Somebody already cast that spell over you. We're uncasting it. And doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden going to see the world in the proper way, but you didn't see the world with DNA 5 minutes, 20 minutes ago. You never seen the world that way. You never seen the world about the moon teachings and the way that you can use the science itself to prove and establish Grandma Moon, the beating heart of our Mother Earth, to show the science of how it works. You never seen that before either. No, guarantee you everything else that you're going to see in law, you never seen before either. But once you see it, like the ugliness of the white man, you can't unsee it. Once you're exposed to it, you can't unknow it after that. It is, like I said, an ultimatum to use. Yous are being placed in an ultimatum. That's the centrifuge. It's ultimatum time for everybody. And for me, I don't know, I don't have to go through that centrifuge. And you could think whatever about that. I'm not saying that I'm something special or that I'm different, but I just don't have to go through that centrifuge. It's not happening to me. What's happening is happening to you, to all the non-native people. It's your world that's being turned upside down, not mine. Like I said, we survived you. No matter how bad it looks like, no matter how bad of an existence you have seen, no matter how many tears were shed, ooh, you know what? Relief. And all those tears mean nothing. No matter what, that time is done now. It's over. Imagine that we're talking about you right in front of your face, that you are over. Isn't that crazy? Your existence, your time, your way, it's done. That's an ultimatum. What you're hearing is ultimatum. It's come to knowledge, come to truth, come back to love, or else. Or else, what you have categorized yourself as will be acknowledged by the centrifuge. And that larger scale of galactic DNA will deal with you. Is that a fantasy? Is that my fantasy? Am I just having this fantasy of believing that things are repetitive on every level? Am I wrongly believing in cellular division and that there's a law in that? If I am wrongly believing in everything that I am having a fantasy, then everything that I have shared with you about the Earth's DNA, about the moon teachings, about anything else, all of it is just wrong. And that would mean then that you would be fools to be sitting here. That would mean that you were a fool, not once you're sitting here, when you decided to come and sit here. You were a fool when you decided to be sitting there listening. If everything that I am saying, or if what I'm saying is wrong. I don't have to prove anything to anybody, but my mother told me, I have to speak your language. I have to talk to you. I have to tell you what you're doing. It's the only reason why I spend my time. I would not spend my time talking to you, talking to anybody, except for what was decided from this house in 2009. And what was decided from this house was the hardest decision to make. Because from 2008 midwinter to 2009 midwinter, I personally had to decide to stop doing all the ceremonies. To stop doing every ceremony. We did not call the people. There was no ceremonies done for a whole cycle. What's the point? What is the point? Why give thanks for that tree outside? Well, there's somebody cutting it down. Am I stupid? I would be stupid. My mother did not make me to be stupid. She made me to speak her voice. And so, 2009, after that year, when we stopped the ceremonies, we called the people back and we gave ultimatum. And don't forget what I told you, is you never give ultimatum unless you're in the position of ultimate power in whatever it is that you're doing. Because if you give ultimatum and you're not, then it destroys you. So we gave ultimatum to the house that either we are going to work 100% of everything to heal our Mother Earth, to defend our Mother Earth against the white man. That's what was decided in this house. And we decided that to do this, to heal Mother Earth, we got to apply the medicine that only we have. The medicine is Great Law of Peace. Nobody else has it. Try to find it. Go ahead. So to apply it, we said we have to go where the trauma is. The trauma is in the minds of the people. So we had to go into your mind from 2009. And it's because this house, through my mother, devised a method of how to do that. Maybe not, but well, you're here. People are here, people are listening, people are learning. They're not learning from me. Maybe I'm the mouthpiece, but big deal. None of these words are mine. I am not a master of love the way my mother is. I do not know how to speak those things. It's not even my desire to speak those things. I'm a guy with my own personal interests. I would rather do what I would rather do. So it's not me that you're listening to. It's my mother. But everyone will attack and say, Stuart Mile. Well, if that's the case, well, then nobody should listen to Stuart Mile. Nobody. I'll tell you that outright. You should not. I tell you all the time, don't believe a damn thing that I say. I could be lying through my teeth to you on everything. But you got to prove it to be wrong. Because there's logic somewhere that we're using. Now, unless I am manipulating this logic to be able to twist your minds into somehow hypnotize you into something, unless that's happening, well, then there's some truth somewhere, if that's not happening. Anyways, okay, so how it stays alive here is quite simply through a mother's love stays alive through her sons. Her sons got to keep it alive. So, you know, at some point, her sons will die off. So if you want that message, you got to keep it alive. You're the one that's got to perpetuate it, not me. I just present what my mother tells me to present. And then my job is done. That's it. I can go after that. So I don't, like I said earlier, I'm not really here. I'm not a person of the here and now, you know, I'm not like a permanent fixture. Not like yous anyways. You have the ability to leave your permanent mark of truth. I don't really have that ability. It ends with me. Okay, if there's no other questions, anything, we'll close.
Nobody raised their hand.
Okay, cellular division. I know some of you, well, Merrick asked me, I forget what he said too, and some of you have a hard time understanding this or believing it. That there's not a thought that goes through my head that is not thinking from 1, from 2, from 3, from 5, 6, 9, 13, 28, 48. My mind is always thinking those. Those things are always the factor in absolutely everything. It's like if you take all of the elements from the periodic table, you know, you throw them down and ooh, they'll mix, they'll make something else. It's based on these factors. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, 13, 28, 48. It's all on those factors. That's what controls the periodic table. And you factor in the 3 all the time of turtle, wolf, and bear. Pressures, densities, and temperatures. Which you know as protons, neutrons, and electrons. But again, protons, neutrons, electrons, what does it mean? Doesn't mean nothing. Doesn't mean nothing to you. You've never seen a proton. You never worked with an electron. You never had a neutron like in your ingredients, baking a cake or something. Not that you know of. But turtle, wolf, and bear, you know of completely. You know of traits. You know of temperatures, pressures, and densities. These are truths that created cellular division. This is our mother's power, her spiritual power. And she even embedded her truth in the blueprint to show you, to keep reminding you. It's there to keep reminding you. She is there. She speaks through cellular division, through everything, right to you, right to your brain. You just don't talk back to her. Okay. All right. Ano ka tiwahi ka joke pa? So what don't see us nyari. Gazita zrio yojets. Kahawa no jiyon tajets ko inista. Wala ta roni. Yes gahawe. Also was on board. Time to close. Time to bring this to an end. It's not a closing. As you know, there was no opening because we are within recital. It's open stays open. But as some of you know, since my father had passed, we have never closed. We are open, non-stop business. Works 24 hours a day here. Some of you have seen it. It never ends here. It comes right to our doorstep. So, but no, it's not closing. It's just to identify that, well, it's a wrapping up of this part. And we continue tomorrow morning. So like always, Ayoki at again, yeti sotagon han there on the headstone gonna go here that the hawakwe. Ayoki at again, hadam dawe aron hetzera gazet stasera neganungwe. Dam dawe aron hetzera gazet stasera ne sawyerda. Gondon hetzera gawes. A grades ni ganyat de gerdo. Dana aguego o quadriano cosua. Damdawi on Hetzida, Guego on the Gorda, Guyana Rasada go on Escana to bring back the true spirit of every wampum of the great law of peace. To keep this in our minds that even while we are in creation story, formation of the league, this or that part, you might not think that this is law. All of it is law. All of it. It's prelude to law. It's like your interaction with the other. It's all a prelude. How you learned how to play with children when you were a kid. It was a prelude to how you come together with the other. How you are eventually going to wrap yourself around in this continuum. Where are you going to take your place? So, know that everybody is to take their place now. It's like the bell rang. Everybody to their station. Yous are lucky. Yous know your station to some degree. Yous at least know where to sit. Yous know where to put your back. You know where to be looking. You know where the opposite is sitting. You know even how to cross if you have to. You are fortunate. You know much more than what your average know-nothing person does. So we're grateful for whatever it is that we know. The love that each of us have experienced with our mothers, we are grateful. We give thanks for that. The most beautiful of beautifuls, so precious to us, every single last one of us. We cherish this. We keep this close to our heart. And we use that as the guide, as the template, as to how we expand our love into the world. We use our mother's example. Some of us do not have a good mother example. So when we say this, we are not necessarily talking about our individual mother. In this rape of our Mother Earth, women have had very bad experiences. Very bad. They're tarnished. They might not, in some cases, be able to love again. Of course, that is the goal of male dominance, to stop the power of the mother from regenerating. We have to stop what he is trying to stop. Sky Woman is completing her great cycle. And when she does, it's the equivalent of like she comes to sit on her throne of authority. This guy is running there to push her off of it. All of you know it. Every woman on earth knows it. You got to get angry. You got to get your fire burning inside to want to do something to save your mother. I don't know what you got to do to get your brain there, but I'm already there. I'm already giving my 100% to save my mother. Everything that I can possibly do. You got to do it too. All the women must combine forces, and you must say, no, you are not allowed in my house until you conform to all what the women say. Great law of peace, no more nonsense, no more this, no more that. You have to put your foot down now. I'm not talking about what hippies done in the 60s of burning their bras. It's nonsense. Talking about Adun Hetzera, true spirit, not what you want, true spirit. So tap into that. Let's get her going. Get your fire burning. Give your mother her voice back. We got to give our Mother Earth her voice back. The world needs to hear what she's got to say now before she dies. That's as plain as simple as that. We'll go on it. Have a good night. Sasum Dios.
Bonne nuit, Bourraif. Take care of yourself.